Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. So again for part 2 we have Swami Purna Chaitanya Ji with us. And in part 1 we heard so many amazing miraculous stories from him, and today it's going to be cherry on the top. So last time we heard how Alex from Netherlands became Swami Purna Chaitanya and started traveling interiors. And how when he saw for the first time somebody with Gurudev putting up asan for Gurudev, setting up asan for Gurudev, Alex had a wish. Oh, it's so nice to travel with Guru and do all these things for a Guru and learn from a Guru personally. And here we have Swami Purna Chaitanya, who traveled with Gurudev and who is doing all that he always thought he should do. Today's session is going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible. And there are so many intimate Guru stories. We were discussing a few of them, how to start. And I'm so amazed that he has really achieved all this by a lot of groundwork, I would say. So Swamiji, usually we give this 5 minutes buffer time for everybody to join because notification goes, and as you know, in the last part
no
also
problem.
we gave this time.
Chalega.
So Swamiji, can we take some questions? Some people have put some questions.
Yeah, maybe one or two.
So one or two, maybe just because some of them they have.
Yeah.
So
As
Swamiji,
people are still
first
joining.
question. Yeah, people are still joining. Those who are joining, please share it on WhatsApp and WhatsApp groups, this link, and Facebook. So Swamiji, first question: your divinity and your simple description of how you achieved it is proof of an realized soul. One question I have, it's from Veena. I was never taught Sanskrit, but can I start chanting without any proper background?
So, Veena, it depends a little bit here because there are so many different types of mantras. It's a whole science, and it's a little bit like you can say maybe with how it is with yoga, with the asanas or with the pranayamas. There are certain things which anybody can practice safely. It's not so difficult. You can't go much wrong, and it will give you those benefits. But then there are certain more advanced techniques that you need to practice under supervision, which you should learn from a competent teacher to make sure that you do it right, and also to make sure that you don't do something wrong. So when we talk about mantras, there are things like Maha mantras, like Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, all these, and the stotras are there, like we have the Ashtakams, Sahasranamas, all that. It is okay, even if you don't know proper Sanskrit, if you learn to chant it nicely, it's perfectly fine. But then there are other types of mantras where when we talk about Bija mantras, Mula mantras, Vedic mantras like the suktas, where it needs to be chanted in the proper manner. And for some of them also, you need a certain preparation. There is an initiation that prepares you also, like your nervous system, to work with these energies. It's because you're dealing with the subtle world. So those mantras, we should learn it in the proper way, just to make sure that we get the proper benefit and also that we don't do something wrong, because sometimes, if you change the Vedic mantras, for example, the vibration is what is predominant, where the power lies. It's not so much the meaning. The stotras, it's the meaning. You chant the devotional, the names of the divine and all of that. But when we talk about Vedic mantras, there is the vibration. So there, if you change the pronunciation or the intonation, the sound also changes. So the vibration changes. So there it is a little more particular. But
Swamiji, which is your favorite two-liner Sanskrit shloka?
Oh, that's a difficult one. My favorite shloka. So the thing is, there is a few, I would say. One is that there is a few lines that we chant in our Sandhya Vandana, the daily, like apart from Gayatri Mantra, there is a few lines which are very beautiful. And apart from that, like there one line also which I love. It's nowadays also we chant it at the beginning of the Guru Puja. It has been added over the years. When I learned Guru Puja, it was not yet there, but it says no that Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmat Shri Guru Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Because it beautifully, it's like in one line, it has for me that whole essence of our tradition of the enlightened masters, the Guru Parampara. So it all started with Sadashiva, that Shiva Tattva, and how that manifested. It took a birth as, amongst others, as Adi Shankaracharya, who is considered as an Amshavatara, a partial incarnation of that energy. And then it says that through that whole lineage of masters, out of which one of the main ones was Adi Shankaracharya, that lineage, that connection has now come to me in the form of my master. And I bow down to that whole lineage of masters. And I think it's beautiful because the Guru Parampara is not something separate. Sometimes we forget this. Like we have all these Guru stories, people, they may be sitting at home doing their meditation practice, or they are doing their, their Sandhya Vandana practice, or their Sudarshan Kriya practice, or some asana practice, whatever it may be. Or they're reading some books where Gurudev has spoken about these different, Upanishads and things like that. Now he's going to speak on Narada Bhakti Sutras again. So you're sitting at home somewhere far away, and then sometimes we feel that, oh, it is so beautiful, this whole tradition, but you feel it's something separate. But the truth is that we are part of that tradition. So even if you're sitting there at home in the middle of nowhere and you're doing your little bit of sadhana, your spiritual practice, because that came from your master, you are part of that. So you're not alone. You have this whole family of enlightened masters behind you. So even though you're sitting somewhere far away, you're not just doing it by yourself. There's this whole blessing and sankalpa of this tradition behind it, and you're a part of it. When you practice these things, or when you share it with people, you are continuing that tradition. So it is not only like a select private club of enlightened masters. We are all part of that. And we should own that to some extent. We should feel that, at least within us. It will give you that confidence and strength.
Very true, Swamiji. I remember once I was in Ganga, and in the evening time, Gurudev was sharing the same thing, that any upaya or any solution, when a Guru blesses and gives, that like some mantra Guru gives, or chant Hanuman Chalisa, or any mantra or upaya that Gurudev gives, it works because there is sankalpa of Guru behind that particular mantra. So that's Gurudev was sharing.
True.
So Swamiji, you traveled northeast. So before we start this, all of you who are watching this live, share this on various WhatsApp groups, share this on Facebook, create watch party, and spread the blessings. So Swamiji, you traveled northeast. So it was almost like going to jungles and meditating.
Well, almost, because maybe not always meditating, but definitely lots of jungles.
Lots of things. And we saw your photo that it was a bridge created by all the roots of the tree.
Yes. Yeah, this is in Meghalaya. It's famous. It's because it's, I think, one of the only places, or one of the very few places in the world where they have these natural root bridges, where the roots of the trees have grown over a river or a place and has naturally formed a bridge that you can walk on. And it's interesting because I remember the first time I went to the Northeast. Of course, it was a big adventure. A little bit we spoke about it in the last episode, that I went there for about three and a half months. Started in West Bengal and then went to 5-6 states in the Northeast. And then when I came back to the ashram, like Gurudev gave me a choice, like once when I met him. So he asked me that, do you want to go back? Or maybe do you want to again go to Andhra Pradesh or Tamil Nadu, some of the places I was working earlier? And I knew that why he gave me that choice is because Northeast was not easy. It's many of the places he used to send me, we had a much smaller presence. It was not so developed from our point of like organization point also. And so it's like he gave me the choice. And I told him, I said, Gurudev, I'm ready to go wherever you want me to go. No, you just tell me, I will happily go there. And then he looked very happy. He smiled. He said, okay, then you go to Northeast. And he had asked me about each of the states where I had visited, about Assam, about Manipur, about Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Tripura, like all the places. What was the response, the programs we had. And then he told me that, you go and focus on Arunachal Pradesh and Meghalaya. So I was thinking, these are the two states where I went where we had only very small programs that time. So I asked him that, Gurudev, then what about Assam and Manipur? Because we had nice big programs there. We went to the villages. We had big gatherings, like sometimes thousands of people used to come. So then he said, no, those places like, activities are going well. Our teachers are doing good work. You focus on Meghalaya and Arunachal Pradesh. And this was a nice challenge. And when some people heard, some of my friends, some of our senior teachers or some of our Swamijis or Ashramites, then they told me that, oh my God, Northeast, it's like one of the toughest places in India because, it's maybe a little different, less developed. And how will you manage with the food, all those things. So for many of them, they said, oh, my God, who are you? You have to go to this place. It's really difficult. And the thing is that, for me, it didn't feel like a problem or a challenge in that way. Because, I don't know, for me, I've always felt that whatever my guru gives me, it is a prasad, Like if he sends you to a place where there is so much of issues and it is difficult for you, then he only did that because we can make a difference there, or we can grow, we can learn something new, so that it's a prasad, it's a special gift. So many times in different places there, sometimes it was really challenging. Then I used to sometimes wonder and laugh at myself and think out loud that, Gurudev, this is very interesting. Like I sometimes I really didn't know why on earth I had to go through those things. So I'm trying to think, okay, what could be the lesson here? Or maybe I just had to get rid of some karmas or whatever it may be. And I used to wonder, and I can only laugh, like, like I don't know why this was required or important, but I took it as a prasad. And the beauty is, when you take it as a blessing or as a gift, then very few things can really put your enthusiasm down, So like I remember, for example, once, this was actually still in Andhra Pradesh. There was one village where we had gone for some padayatras and programs. And actually in that village, we don't really have any contacts of art of living, but we started a project in Andhra Pradesh called, it is called Back to the Roots, And this Back to the Roots project, it is led by one of our very dynamic teachers called Sudarshan, who has spent a lot of time in the United States also, but he's originally from Andhra Pradesh. And so in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, we went to villages and we used to inspire people to preserve their culture, their traditions. He also started some service initiatives there. And we traveled a lot together. So this was one village where someone in the United States had asked him to go. He said, he was donating something for the projects, and then he had a personal request. He said, there is this village which is my native village, and I would love you guys to go there as well, to spread some of this knowledge and encourage people to preserve their traditions, teach them more about the Sanatana Dharma. And he said, I still have a relative who stays in our ancestral home there, so he will organize for your stay and all of that. So during one of our tours, we went there, and I still remember, we had to look a little bit, and finally in the evening, we reached the place, and it was like there was a compound where there was a courtyard, and there was the main house where this person and his family was staying. And on the other side of that courtyard, there was a few smaller rooms that they had built, and they had given it on rent. So in one or two of the rooms, some people were staying, and there was one small room which was still empty, in which we were going to stay. So when we came there, and he showed us, so the room, it was not really a proper room. It was made of concrete, but it's a little bit like a storeroom type, where it had a wooden door, and with little difficulty he was able to open it. And then it was just a concrete floor with a lot of some stones and some sand and dust. And there was a window which was not really a window, it was just a hole in the wall, but there was no glass or anything, just some wooden shutters. And there was no light bulb. There was one small wire. So he pulled that wire, they connected it somewhere, and then they connected one light bulb. So at least we had some light. And with the light, we could see how dirty it was actually. So we quickly, with his help also, we cleaned it, and we tried to broom out most of the sand and the pebbles. And mainly there were three inhabitants. There were one, lot of spiders, two, lot of mosquitoes, and three, what was the third one? We had spiders, mosquitoes, and we saw a few cockroaches also. So we got rid of those as good as we could. And then we asked him that, okay, so he's the host, the person there said, okay, you can sleep here. And along with me, a few more people were there, some international teachers, one or two from Russia, and all of that. So it was their first trip. So I had already traveled quite a lot in South India, but for them, and they were shocked that, how can we stay here? So the person, he brought some not really mattresses, also some thin things to sleep on, and some pillows. So we put our yoga mats on the floor, and we said, okay, we can sleep on this. We had that pillow, kind of blanket. And the stay there was very interesting, because then they showed us the bathroom, which was on the other side of the courtyard, where there was one small structure that was a toilet, and next to that a bathroom, and outside there was a tap. So you had to fill your bucket and then go inside that thing to take a bath, or the other one to use the toilet. But inside also it was very low, so you had to bend a little bit, and there was no light bulb. So at night it was dark, early morning it was dark. Then there was no hooks or anything to put your clothes, no shelves. So you have to somehow go inside, and then whatever you're wearing, keep it, well, God knows where, that it doesn't get wet, So even to keep your towel and all, we were wondering where to keep it. And I remember the first night there when we slept, when I lie down, I pulled up the bed sheet, and then for a moment I closed my eyes and I just prayed, and I said, Gurudev, there's only so much we can do. You please take care. And I sincerely requested that while I was sleeping there during the night, that none of these three species, whether it was mosquitoes or spiders or cockroaches, would go into my mouth or somewhere else. Because what can you do now? If you're really worried, then you cannot even sleep. So I remember in many places, even in the Northeast, where sometimes we had to stay in a place that was maybe some government guest house or some other temporary arrangement, where it was really not clean, where the water that comes out of the tap has all different types of colors, or where the bed sheets not just look like they have never been washed, but probably have never been washed, So where it's really very unhygienic. But then what you do is, and I think that's the beauty of this knowledge, that then, okay, I just said Jai Gurudev, and I slept very nicely, So
So
for me,
all these
many of
places,
these
Swamiji,
places, yeah.
yeah, all these places, many times it's been reported that there are some extraterrestrial experiences also.
You mean ghosts and all that?
any, because you mentioned that in the night you used to sleep. I think that can be more scary than all these mosquitoes, and I don't know
Yeah,
whether it is
like
scary or.
personally, I have a very open policy when it comes to my social interactions. I have no problem with other species, but yeah, there are many experiences. Like I remember once during my first trip in West Bengal, when we were also visiting many of our schools, that our free schools there in the rural and tribal areas. So in the north of Bengal, we were traveling, and then they had arranged our night stay in it was like a bung, this, what do you call it? Like a cabin or something that comes under the forest department. It was in a wildlife sanctuary, actually, a tiger reserve or something like that. And with me, two volunteers were traveling who knew the places where we had to go. One was a younger guy, and one was a little bit older, but also still quite young. So that one night we spent in this big cabin in the woods, and it was on poles because you have elephants, wild elephants there. There are some tigers and some other animals. So to make sure that they don't disturb you and that you're safe, the cabins are built on poles. They're at a height, and then the staircase also that went up to the main door, it had been covered with a cage, like a steel cage, which you can lock at night, just so that no wild animals will come inside and you can come out safely in the morning, to see what's happening. So I remember that we went inside, and a very basic setup. So there were two rooms with a big bed in each and not much of furniture. There was one small attached bathroom, and it's mostly for people who are passing through or some government officials to stay there. And no TV, of course, nothing, just one or two, three simple light bulbs. So, and when we came there, we found in the corner, I found some empty whiskey bottles and beer bottles. So mostly this is what probably people do when they spend the night there. They have nothing else to do, so they drink. So not a very sattvic atmosphere, of course, but we thought it's nice, it's exciting, in the middle of this wild animals, this reserve area, the forest. So we had something to eat, and then we came there, and then at night I was sitting with these two volunteers, and we were watching one video of Gurudev, some knowledge talk, on my laptop, because we had nothing much else to do, and it was still quite early. So then what happened is suddenly we heard some sound outside on the wooden on the wall, like this sound. And then this younger boy, he got up and he said, "Oh, do you think it's a tiger?" So both of us, the other boy and me, were laughing, and then we said, "No, probably not, but you want to go and check?" He was like, "No way." And then suddenly I asked them, "Did you close that gate properly outside?" And they were not sure. So then we saw that it wasn't closed. So one of them had to go out and close it. Finally, we could get him to do it. He was very scared. He came back. Then we finished watching the video, and then we said, "Okay, time to go and rest. I'll see you guys in the morning." So they were staying in one room. I was staying in the other room. So I went to my room. I closed the door that separated us, and brushed my teeth, did all that. And then when I lie down on my bed, suddenly I had this feeling that, like I'm not alone. Like there is something here. And it's not very common. I don't usually have this kind of feeling. And it wasn't really that I was afraid, but it's like, feel a little uncomfortable. So then I thought, okay, what to do? So then I remembered one trick that I had learned along the way. So I had some special incense that has a purifying effect also. So I lit that incense. I thought, let me clean the atmosphere here. So I walked around the room while chanting Guru Puja, the Guru Puja mantras, and I was using that incense all around. And then after that, when again I sat on my bed, I was meditating for some time. I felt, yeah, it is much more settled now, the energy. And I went to sleep, and I slept very nicely. And the next day morning, I woke up, I took a bath, I did my sadhana. And after finishing my meditation, I opened the door to check if the other guys were also done. And then the first thing that happened is that that younger guy, he ran towards me, fell on his knees, touched my feet, and he said, "Swamiji, please bless me." I was surprised. I said, "Well, good morning to you too, at least." So I said, "Okay, how have you been?" He said, "No, please, you give me blessing first, then I will tell you." Thought, okay, what to do. So closed my eyes, I gave him a blessing. And then he looked a little more settled. Then he sat down and I asked him, okay, what happened? How did you guys sleep? And then he told me, he said, Swamiji, last night when we were talking for some more time and then we turned off the light, we went to bed and I was almost falling asleep. Like, it's like when you're starting to feel sleepy. And he said, and suddenly I felt like we are not alone. So then he opened his eyes and at the end of his bed near his feet, he saw this lady standing there, the clear form of a lady. And it freaked him out, of course. So he got really scared. So what he did is he pulled the bed sheet over his head and he started chanting, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Then after some time, he thought, okay, maybe now it's okay. But then suddenly he felt these two arms like under the bed sheets, like trying, as if someone is trying to lift him up from the bed. And he got even more scared because then he saw that lady is standing next to the bed. So again, he put that bed sheet over his head and he's chanting Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And then suddenly what happens is the other guy who was sleeping next to him, he pulls away that bed sheet because he saw this guy sitting next to him, doing this. And he asked him, like, what are you doing? And that moment, this other guy saw that it's morning. So he don't know how that whole night went, but he freaked out like anything. And then I realized that because I could clearly feel that, there is something there. And then when he told me about this, so, there are so many, you can say, subtle layers of this creation
And
that
we
really we
saw
don't
one
know
of
about.
your photo also. We saw one of your photo also. You were sitting and meditating, and you were all in white light. There was big white light around you, and some volunteer took that photo. Where was it?
Yeah,
That similar
this
time?
happened. Yeah, no, this was a little later, I think 1 or 2 years later, when I was traveling in Meghalaya. Once it happened that, in Meghalaya, the traditional, the indigenous faith, their local traditions, they have a beautiful custom where each village had a sacred forest, like a part of the forest nearby the village, which was only entered by the priest mostly. And this part of the forest is considered as the local, you can say, residence of the devatas, of the local spirits or angels. And in that part of the forest, only pujas, only ceremonies are performed, and by the priest. And nobody is allowed to take anything from that forest or to leave anything there. So you cannot dump anything there, and you cannot, even a leaf or a flower, you're not supposed to pluck and take it from there because it belongs to the devatas, they say. So each village has its own small, you can say, sacred forest. But there were some places which were like the main sacred forests for like the whole kingdom, you can say, or the whole region. So there is one, which is one of the most famous ones in the Khasi Hills. I think it's called Mauflung, if I remember correctly. And this is one of the main forests, sacred forests, and it's still there. So now, of course, everybody knows about it, but the village next to it is still taking care of it, like they are the caretakers. So anybody who comes from outside is only allowed to enter that forest with a local guide, with someone from the village who can guide them and who can also make sure that they don't take anything from the forest, that they don't disturb it, they don't litter there, drop any garbage, or that they respect it, basically. And one of our local volunteers, he had told me once that, Swamiji, I want to take you to this place. So once we had a chance, both of us went there. It's a bit of a drive. And we found someone from the village who could take us. And we took us, and it's amazing. It's so beautiful. We walked inside that forest. And just after a few minutes, you could feel that it's a totally different space. And even the plants, the trees, they look very different because it's very ancient, even the trees, because they were never allowed to cut any trees there. So not just that some of the trees were very big, but you could feel that the whole place had a very ancient and a very peaceful, a very sacred atmosphere. And the guide was telling us a little bit about it. So there was a place where there were these stones that were flat. It almost looked like a number of seats. And he explained how the first king of that region and his ministers had been coronated there, had been crowned there. That ceremony was performed in that sacred forest. And there's another place where there were these big stone slabs, almost like big tables made of stone slabs. And there were 5 of them. And some of them were cracked in the middle. And he was explaining that these is the places where a very special ceremony or ritual, sacrifice, was performed only in times of, you can say, mass calamity, when the kingdom was in danger. So when there was a war, or when there was a natural calamity or an epidemic, like now we see with the COVID crisis, of course, pandemic. So if there was something which was threatening the whole village, so the whole kingdom, a special ceremony was performed there to remove that or to protect the people. And so he explained that the last time it was performed was about 500 years ago. And so like that, he was showing us around that sacred forest. It's quite big. And suddenly we came to a spot where there was only grass and no trees. And it was round. It was like a circle. And nearby there was a small creek, a small river, stream was going. So you could hear the sound of the water. And it was looking so beautiful, so peaceful. And I was surprised because that whole forest had such huge trees, so much of vegetation. And this one place, there was nothing was growing there. And they cannot do any, landscaping, or they're not allowed to cut anything. So I asked that the guide that, how come this small place, there's no trees here? It's like this round open place in the middle of the forest. And he said, yes, this is the center of the forest. So right in the center, there was this open place, and it was looking so beautiful. So I asked him, I said, is it okay for me to meditate here for some times? And, then what happened is that the volunteer also, he told that guide that, is it okay, we can go a little bit ahead so Swamiji can meditate peacefully? And he said, yeah, of course, it's not a problem. So they went a little ahead, they sat under the trees, and I looked for a place to sit because I'm wearing my white robes, clothes, and all that, thinking, where should I sit down? And I saw this small stone on the floor, in the grass, flat stone. So I sat down there and I closed my eyes, and I thought, okay, let me just be with the presence of this forest. I don't want to do anything, don't even want to do any meditation. I thought, let it just happen. So I closed my eyes and I sat there, and I felt mind settling down and this beautiful space. And I went into meditation, and suddenly I felt, you feel like as if someone is standing next to you or coming close to you. Like sometimes also maybe in your house, you're doing your work, and then suddenly, like, you can feel if someone comes close, if you didn't hear them or anything. So I felt someone is there, and I thought maybe it's the volunteer or this other person. But then I was really enjoying my meditation, so I didn't want to open my eyes to check. I thought, okay, let it be. And then suddenly I could feel that really there's a presence which is coming very close. And from inside, this thought came that, as if it is feeling a little shy. So just in my mind, that thought came up in my heart that it's okay, you can come. And then I felt that the presence came even closer, and it was a beautiful, like very, very soft, very kind feeling. Like I said, almost like a little bit shy, but very, very kind. And I could feel that presence, and that was there for some time, and very beautiful. And then after some time, again, I felt that it is starting to go away, and it went away. And then a few minutes later, I opened my eyes and I got up and I went to our volunteers. I must have maybe meditated for 20 minutes or so, 20, 30 minutes. And then the volunteer, he asked me, he said, Swamiji, it was a very nice meditation. I said, yes, very nice. He said, yeah, I thought so. I said, how come? He said, when you sat down, I thought it looks nice. I took a few pictures with my phone. But suddenly, like we were just talking here, and suddenly I could feel, no, like we could both feel that there is something. And then when we looked at you, it was looking different. So he said, I took some pictures, 2, 3 pictures, and I'll show you. And then when he showed me the pictures, because that they saw only after he took the pictures, that on the picture also you can see there's this glow of like white bluish light around most of me. And the interesting thing is that the other pictures which he took before and after, it doesn't show that. So it was only that moment where when he took that picture, you can see that light. And first I thought, no, maybe it's because of course I had my experience in the meditation, but then we don't know. You don't just want to say, oh, it must be this or that. So I showed it many years later. Actually, accidentally, I gave some of my pictures to a friend of mine who's a professional photographer to edit them so that maybe I can use it for my website or, and she found this picture in between that hard drive which I gave her. And then she emailed me and she said, Swamiji, what is this picture? What happened here? So I explained her. She said, that light, because she tried to edit it, because sometimes due to the camera or because of the lighting, you can see some light or some glow or something on the picture. So they can correct that. But she said, this is something different. This is not because of the camera or something. There was something there because I couldn't edit it out, So, and then later I heard that because these forests, and especially this one, this is where they say their local devatas, these angels, the spirits, they reside. It's their home. That's why we're not allowed to take anything. So yeah, these are very precious experiences, and we can wonder about it. It's good to wonder.
And how was Nagaland?
Nagaland was very adventurous. I've been there 2, 3 times. Actually, the thing is, some of the challenges in Northeast is that also we have, and it's much less now, but these militant groups. So I remember once, that was on my first trip to the Northeast. I was in Silchar, part of Assam, where I was also visiting some of our free schools. And then one of the local volunteers and one of the teachers came up to me, and they came with a proposal, a request, where they said inside the hills, in a place not too far from here, called Dimahasau. It's a district. The district headquarters is called Haflong. That time it was called NC Hills, that area, North Kachar Hills. So they said there inside the hills, there is some villages where they want to start some of these schools. And I checked with our head office, and they said, yeah, 1 year ago, also someone had passed on this request, but nobody was able to go there after that. So they said, if you can go and see, it will be really nice. So I remember one evening I was sitting with some of our teachers in Silchar, and I asked them that, I'm planning to go to this place. Anybody would like to join me? And everybody was like, no way, we're not going. And then one of them said, it's not just that we are not going, even you should not go. Because we see the reports in the newspaper, there are these 3 areas, different tribes, and some of those places, there are some militant groups also from those tribes. And many times you hear stories of people who go into those hills and they don't come out alive, So they said, you shouldn't go there. But then I thought, no, but people are inviting, they've requested us, and I'm going for Gurudev's work. So, what can happen? So I agreed. So finally, just me and that volunteer and this rural teacher who had requested me, we went there together. So they said, we will arrange, someone will come and pick us up at the station. So we got a local train, we booked, and we had to leave in the evening from Silchar. And then a small train. And then what happened is, suddenly at 2:30 in the night, because local trains not very comfortable, so I was dozing off, and then it's difficult to sleep. So you doze off, you wake up again. And suddenly they're waking me up when I finally slept off. And they said, Swamiji, we have to get off here. We have reached. And the train stops here only for 2 minutes. So then I checked, and it's totally dark. Everybody in the train is sleeping. So quickly get my bags, and we are able to jump out of the train just in time before it starts moving again. And there's this small station, and nothing much there. And then I was, no, you wake up because the cold, fresh air, and so we're standing there 2:30 in the night. And then I said, okay, then now where do we go? And then they said, no, but we cannot go right now because at night there is a curfew here because of the problems with the local militants. So we need to wait till sunrise. And I thought, oh, that's nice. You didn't tell me that before. So we found this, there was one or two benches on the station because just two simple platforms, a small station. And so we're sitting there, and then lots of mosquitoes, and there was a public toilet right behind that bench. So you had that nice smell of urine and all that. So somehow I kept waking up and falling asleep for that next 3-4 hours until finally it started getting light. Then someone came to pick us. He called the local people. They came to pick us up, and they said, okay, we have arranged a room in a local like government guest house kind of place. You can freshen up, have your breakfast, and then we'll bring you some breakfast. And then we have to go because it's a 3-hour drive into the hills, 3-4 hours drive. And you have to visit those two villages and come back also before night because it's difficult to stay in the hills, no proper place, and it's a little risky also. So they drove us there to that guest house. And when we entered, these huge walls with barbed wire, and then at the gate, two guys with, semi-automatic rifles. So I thought, where on earth did I did I land up? And we went there, took a shower, did our Kriya sadhana. Then they brought some breakfast. And the guy who was the manager of that local guest house, he came and he was showing us our room. He said, don't worry, sir, in this place you are safe. So I was like, okay, well, that's very comforting, but I have to go somewhere else. So these people came and picked us up. We got into the car and we started driving. And normally people used to say, okay, you can sit in front next to the driver because it's most comfortable, no, on these bumpy roads and all. But this other guy was sitting in the front, so I sat behind with our volunteers and all that, and one or two guys that had come along. So we were chatting a little bit on the road, and I was curious because the villages where we were going were in the Naga area of the NC Hills that borders with Nagaland also. And this is one of those areas which was also affected by the NSCN, the Naga militant group, which was one of the most feared militant groups. So they said even the army and they're reluctant to go to these areas because it's very risky for them also. So I was thinking we'll enter this jungle and you'll see all these people with guns, but the whole road I didn't see anything. So I was looking, like sometimes there is a village on the way. Initially, we saw a few army vehicles here and there that were patrolling, but then after that, nothing, just villages. And I was looking, and yeah, very basic, those areas, no electricity also at that time, but nothing exciting. So we reached these villages, and very sweet, people, they welcomed us with so much of love, so much of respect. They had prepared a traditional welcome with their traditional dance, with a song. They had created a small structure made of bamboo, like a small house, like conference hall, to receive us. And we sat with them. They shared the challenges that there is no school anywhere nearby. We cannot afford to send our children every day for a few hours up and down just to attend a school in the town. And they were praying that if your Gurudev can bless us with a school here, it will give our children a chance to come up in life, to improve their situation. So I went to both of those, the two villages there. I met with the village elders, with the people. We discussed, we made a plan. I took photos, and now for quite a few years we've been running the schools in both those villages, two schools, free schools, But so what happened is when we finished all our meetings there and we went back, it was already getting dark. So they dropped us off at the guest house, and then we were going to freshen up and then take a train out that same night. So when we are standing on the train station after those guys had left, I asked that volunteer who had come along, young guy, that, people had told me that there's all these militants and it's a very dangerous area, but I didn't see anything. I don't know what the big deal is. And then he looked at me and he smiled. He said, Swamiji, that boy, the young guy who had come to pick us up, the main guy. I said, yeah, very sweet boy. He works for an NGO, a local organization there in Haflong, for the villagers. And we went to one of the villages we went was his village. So he said, that young guy, who was sitting in the front next to the driver. I said, yeah. He said, he doesn't really work for an NGO. That's just a cover. He's a commander for the NSCN. I said, oh. I said, now you're telling me. He said, yeah. And then he told me, he said, because this guy was sitting in the front of the car and in between he was calling some people, that is why everybody knew that they shouldn't touch this vehicle. They know that we are with him, he is coming. So that is why we didn't see anything and we had no trouble. And of course, this is a big adventure. But then at the same time, it made me realize that because that prejudice was not there, the guy, he was a very gentle person, and he was sincerely concerned about his village and the people there. So this was actually an experience that really helped me also later on when traveling to some of these places in the Northeast and meeting some of these militant people, groups or leaders, and some of them have come to the mainstream now. They have met Gurudev when he would come to visit the Northeast, and they agreed to lay down their arms and approach things in a more peaceful manner. But it just showed that most of them, they're really nice people, in the sense that they're so concerned about, that they see that their people or their village, they don't have electricity, they don't have schooling, they don't have any of these things. And then someone comes to mislead them and who says, listen, government is not doing anything for you. Unless you take charge and you fight for it, nothing is going to happen. Of course, this is not correct. Like Gurudev teaches us, violence is not the way. But then for many people, the innocent people, then they think, oh yes, this person is right. We've been waiting for decades, still we don't have, and they see that in other parts of the country, people are enjoying all these things. They have television, they have electricity, they have development, so it's easy to take advantage. And we've seen that these people, when they realize that, okay, this is not the right way, and we give them a different direction, you can say, or that broader vision, they do amazing service, because if you think about it, for them, even leaving their homes and then staying in the jungle, living off whatever animals you can find, you don't have proper food, you don't have a proper house, you're staying in the jungles as militants, and anytime you can die if there is an encounter. So it's very it needs a lot of commitment. They have much more discipline and commitment and conviction than most other people, because most people will never even be able to stay in such conditions. So we see that when these people use that energy and that commitment in a constructive way, they can do amazing work. They're some of our strongest volunteers. And I've had guys, like one guy drive me to the airport once in Assam, in Guwahati, because I had to travel and it was important. But then suddenly they declared a local band, a local strike, So in the morning up to a certain time, they said no cars can go on the road. And I was worried because I think I had to travel to Bangalore or somewhere. And then one of our teachers, local teachers, called me and said, Swamiji, don't worry. I have found one person who will drop you to the airport. Because taxis, everything will not go. It's risky. Otherwise, sometimes these people, they have stones and they stop the cars and all that. I said, but is that person okay? He said, yeah, don't worry about him. He's happy to take you. He knows you have done Rudra Puja in his house once. And I knew that person. Very sweet guy with his family. I had met him. And when we were driving, so then at some point I asked him also that, are you not worried that something will happen to you? Or, he said, oh, Swamiji, don't worry about me. And then I didn't want to ask, but then he started sharing that actually he had been a very senior militant who had actually been outside of India for like some 10, 15 years, where from Assam, they had taken him to Bangladesh on a fake ID, on a false passport. Then from there to Myanmar, where he had been trained in the jungles. They have these training camps. Then through China to Pakistan, where they had was trained by ISI. Then they were taken to Afghanistan, and he was in Afghanistan when the Taliban was like Al-Qaeda was formed and all that. And then after all of that, he had come back to India, and then he started training people there. So he had trained many of the people in NC Hills how to make bombs, how to do all kinds of things, and he must have killed many people. But then he shared that he met Gurudev so many years ago, and just that one meeting transformed him. And then he said he started coming to meet him again, did some program, and then he realized that this is not the right thing. And he said he moved out of that life, which is very difficult because they don't let you go. If you know so much, if you go to the police, it's very risky. So they tried to kill him a few times, to assassinate him, but he was a very senior guy. He survived. And then finally they came to an understanding where he said, okay, I will leave you alone, you leave me alone. But he's a wonderful volunteer, doing so much good work, and he's so inspired. So these experiences have given me a lot of, it only strengthens that faith where, like Gurudev says, you see that deep down inside, people are really good. There's no such thing as a bad person. And when we come with a pure heart, with an intention to serve, you are taken care of, like, even if sometimes it's not directly. Like another experience, one more I can share. Once we were coming from Arunachal Pradesh to Assam, we had to go through Assam to another part of Arunachal Pradesh for Rudra Pujas. The Shravan Rudra Pujas were going on. So we had done a lot of pujas in Arunachal. And we crossed the check post because, for Arunachal, you need a special permit. So we went into Assam through the check post and they let us through. And then just few kilometers down the road, there were these people on the street and they were burning car tires and they were shouting. So the driver slowed down. We had a driver with us. And then when we stopped and we asked them, they were very angry. They said, oh, what are you doing here? And we found out that there was a local strike, a local bandh, which they had declared. There was some social issue there, something for which they wanted to draw the attention of the local politicians and all that. But they had declared that no vehicle should ply on the road that day. So they were very angry because they thought we are insulting them insulting their cause by not respecting the strike. So then the driver explained that, listen, we didn't know, we were in Arunachal Pradesh. We don't have access to local media. And then he quickly told me, the driver, that don't speak any Hindi now. Just pretend that you're a tourist. I said, okay. So I sat there pretending I don't understand the word they're saying. And then when the driver asked me that, he said he is a tourist, he has to go to the airport. Can you please let us through? So then in English, I told him that, we have to catch a flight and all that. And, little bit of untruth is allowed sometimes. So then that person finally was convinced because he thought, okay, maybe that poor tourist, he doesn't know anything about his local problems. So as a kind of courtesy, they allowed us to go. So that guy, he was one of the leaders there, I think. He told the crowd to move apart. And then we drove ahead. Now, what happened is a few kilometers down the same road, again, there was a crowd on the road and they were burning tires and they were even more angry. So when they saw the car, they immediately surrounded the vehicle and they started shouting, what are you doing here? How can you be driving? And all kinds of nonsense. And then we saw that from the other side, one lady, local lady, came on her scooty and they stopped her also. And she got very angry with them because she was a local lady. And they stopped her and she said, you cannot go. And she said, come on, this is my neighborhood. I have to go to pick up something. And she started shouting at those guys, but they were in a very bad mood. So then she took out one of her shoes. She said, I'm going to beat you, because she was so angry with these people. Then they got so angry that they took her off the scooter and they wanted to burn her scooter there and then. And there were 2 police officers standing by, local police, but they were afraid to do anything because there was a crowd of like 30, 40 guys with sticks and stones and God knows what, So we realized that this is a very risky situation. We have to be very careful. And then because I understand a bit of Assamese also, the local language. So one of these guys was shouting. They were so upset because they thought we are disrespecting their strike, that he said that he was telling the other people in the local language that maybe we should just burn that car with all these people in it. And then for a moment, my heart also started beating that, okay, now what do we do? because we can't go anywhere. The vehicle is surrounded. And then what you can do, so only thing I pray to Gurudev, okay, Gurudev, you please, no, we are doing your work. You please take care. And that moment I get a phone call from one of our female teachers in Arunachal Pradesh. And she calls me and she asked, "Ha, Swamiji, kaise hai? Kya chal raha hai? Kya kar raha hai? No, how are you? What are you doing?" So then I told her, this is really not the right time to talk. And in 2-3 lines, I told her what was happening. And I said, okay, we can talk later. She said, okay, I'll see if I can do something. And put on the phone. Then we were still standing there and these guys were deliberating what to do with us. And then I get a call from one of our other teachers, one of the guys who was in Arunachal Pradesh, from which we had left 1 or 2 days before. And he was heading a big hydropower project there as a vice president. And he's from Himachal Pradesh. So he called me and he said, Swamiji, I just heard from this other teacher about your situation there. And he said, I know one army general who has an army base somewhere nearby there. I've never met him, but he's also from Himachal Pradesh. So someone had introduced us once over the phone. Let me call him and see what I can do. So he called that person and then he called back saying, I've spoken to him. He's very kind. He said he will definitely help you. He will give you a call now. But if you can reach his army base, he will take care. And then we spoke to that person. He explained that we had already passed it actually. So then we thought, okay, if we can only go back, then we have a chance. So we somehow convinced those people to let us go back. We told them, really, we didn't know about your bandh. We respect it. We have a lot of respect for that. So we will go back to Arunachal Pradesh. We will not trouble you. Finally, they let us go. So we went back. Then we had to cross that other group of people again. So again, when we came first, they were shouting. And then when they realized it was us, that one nice guy, he asked us that, how come you're coming back? So we told him they wouldn't allow us there. It was a big mess. So he said, okay. We said, we want to go back to Arunachal Pradesh now. He said, okay, you go. So again, he cleared the crowd. We went. So we found the army base, met that army general, very kind person. And then he said, listen, I've prepared lunch for you. You please have it. We were going to send a convoy to one of the other bases to supply them today. But I had canceled it because there is a local bandh. I said we can send it from another place. But what I've done now for you is I've revoked that order. We will send the convoy from here. We are just assembling all the materials. And we will put your car in between our army convoy so that you can reach your destination. Because army, nobody can stop. Army has free movement, no, obviously. So what happened is that after 1 or 2 hours, we went into that in between. So there was the senior officer also was traveling, who was going on leave. So behind his car was our car, and in front and behind there were 2 army vehicles like escorts with extra army personnel and big machine gun and all that, which is a common standard protocol there. So then we went. So when we passed through that first group of people, when they saw us in between that convoy, some of these guys were shouting and they were clapping, and it's like, see, these guys, they're able to go now. Like they figured out some solution. So they were also laughing. But when we came to the second place, they were very, very angry because when first they had to clear the road, they didn't like that. And then when they saw that we are there in between those army vehicles, if it wasn't for those vehicles, they would have started throwing stones and all that. But of course they didn't. But they were very upset. But then we reached our destination in time. We were able to do the pujas there. We had a pandit who had to reach a train, and we were able to drop him 2 minutes before the train left at the station. So he also, because he had to go home to attend an exam for his Vedic studies. So it's these instances that really have shown me that, in any situation, there really is a greater force. And for me, obviously, that is my guru, who is taking care. And Gurudev will never make a big deal out of it, He will not say, oh, see what all I'm doing. But it's very obvious.
I think there was also an instance we just spoke about how difficult it is in Northeast, especially if you're a vegetarian. Different type of food is there, and in some places.
They have very different traditions.
Tribal.
I think last
tribal
time,
tradition.
I think we covered, no, I think in the last episode we spoke a little bit how Gurudev sent those packets for me
Yes.
to have something to eat. Yeah. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting because, and like I said, for me, I took it as a prasad, as a blessing, because sometimes people say, oh, you've traveled to those places where they don't know anything yet about art of living, or the culture is so different, or, it may not be so developed. But I've always felt that it's a rare opportunity to see how we can work in such places and like really start from scratch, like where there may not even be phone network in some places, or if you want to just get a banner printed for a course, you have to get it from Assam nearby, because in those areas there is no printing place. And I always used to think, because see, we would hear the stories, no, of our seniors, like our Swami Brahmatej and our Vikram Hazra and all these people, where many places they started the art of living activities and things were not yet so developed. And now if you go to a place like Maharashtra, Gujarat, anywhere, we have such a huge team, like for Kerala or many places, we have a proper apex body, we have teachers in different places. So what happens is that then if you go there, especially as a Swamiji, you don't get to do so many things. I mean, you have to conduct a program and all that. But here I had to do everything. Like you have to plan ahead it. I have to get a banner printed on the way so I can pick it up, because the next 2 weeks I won't be able to. And also that, so for me, it was a chance to learn how to really build from scratch, the real groundwork, where you go to someone's house in that village, nobody knows about anything, and then you start talking about what you're doing, see if you can get some contact. And in many places we've had this kind of experiences. Like there is one place in Arunachal, one district called Tirap district, and it is next to Nagaland border also. And we went to Khonsa, the capital, the district headquarters, to see if we can start some activities there. So we had one or two contacts, one local guy who was also with some other local cultural organization, not RSS, but something else. And there was another contact someone had, some local government officer. So me and a very good friend of mine, he's also one of our brahmacharis now, Dixon from Manipur, beautiful soul, very sincere. So we did a lot of work together in Arunachal and in Manipur also. So me and Dixon went there to see if we can start something. So, and he's originally from Manipur, so he knows the area. I mean, the region is working for many years. And we came there to see if we can start something.
Swamiji, your video got hanged, I think. Video is hanged. So till Swamiji comes back, he's just restarting it. You can put your questions. I have opened it for translation. So all the videos, you can see a small setting icon down there. So you can click on that, click on add subtitles, and you can contribute in translating all these wonderful Guru Story videos in different languages. Swamiji is just restarting. Just wait. Yeah. So just wait. More stories coming. So all these hard work he did and how Gurudev came, all that is yet to come. So he's back. Hello, Swamiji.
Sorry, this was the
Light chali
Northeast
gayi.
experience. Yes, light chalegi, internet chalegi. So this happened many times in Northeast also. So, and actually that night when we reached there, the same thing happened. So we came to that place and suddenly the power, it was all dark, and then we had to find uh, the house of one person who they said he's a former minister. So he's like the main guy here, the big shot. Like he knows everybody. So we just went to meet him. That so that local activist guy, he said, I can introduce you. And we went to meet him, a nice gentleman. And then he had had a stroke a few years before. So that is why he was no longer also running for election. And we met his wife, and then his wife was from Assam. He was from Arunachal Pradesh. Very nice interaction. And we told him, no, we teach these programs. Is it okay if tomorrow we have an introductory program here and we can do a little bit of satsang and all that? And his wife was very interested in that. So they said, okay, we will also invite some people. You can do it in our home. So like that, we started, and we went around the next day. And because everybody that we met came to know that the evening program is going to be at this guy's house, then that means, oh, that must be something, because he's the big shot there. So what happened is that we had a nice program in the evening. Some 30, 40 people came. They had prepared some dinner. And then they were really inspired. So we said, we would like to come back and conduct some of these programs sometime. And they said, yes, we would love to do it. You can do it in our home. We have a big hall. And then we can also participate, because they thought maybe he can also benefit with his health. And what happened is we came back there after a few months. First, Dixon G went once. He did a program for them. They had a lot of relief. They felt so much better. And then we came to know that this person, when he was still a minister in Itanagar, in the capital of Arunachal, many years ago, he had met Gurudev once. And he shared that with us only next time when we came. He said, when I was still a minister once, that time it was just Sri Ravishankar had come, some 10, 15 years back. He had come to Itanagar, and we had done a program for some of the ministers and the officers there. And he said it was very inspiring. And then sometimes in the newspaper, they used to put a small knowledge quote or something from him in those days. And he said, I used to cut it out of the newspaper and collect it. And he showed it to us. So he had always felt that connection. And then finally, he came to our Bangalore ashram for some Ayurveda treatments. We invited him. And even though that stroke had happened a few years before, he had been partially paralyzed because of that. And even though he was already at a very old age, he stayed for a few weeks, and miraculous healing happened. He was able to use his arm again. He was able to walk without a stick again, because of the Panchakarma treatments that he did there. And he met Gurudev. And he told Gurudev then that, I met you so many years ago. And Gurudev was just smiling and nodding. And he said, all these years I was collecting that knowledge quotes and everything. And so he became a big support for us whenever we used to go to this place. But at the same time, like I said, these areas were very adventurous. So I remember once we visited one of the nearby villages to meet the village headman and the village elders to see if we can do a program for some of the youth. We wanted to organize some youth leadership training programs there. And then after we met with that person, he said he called because he was a little older, the village headman, he called one of the guys from the village and he asked him to show us around. He said, would you like to see the village? I said, I would love to, because I love exploring new places, seeing the culture, the traditions. And he showed us around. And then there was one place which was their traditional indigenous prayer hall, where there was also a huge wooden drum, which they used to beat in the older times when there was any alarm or any announcement for the whole village. If there was maybe the village was being invaded or there's a fire or things like that. And he took us there. And then suddenly in that same prayer hall, I saw on the side, there was this shelves it was a bamboo structure, but they had made these shelves. And on it, there are these rows of human skulls. And of course, sometimes we hear these stories that, headhunters and things like that. But I saw all these human skulls. And I was thinking, oh, this is interesting. So then I asked this person, I said, how come you are having these human skulls here? And then he smiled. He said, oh, yeah, this is our custom. Whenever we used to have a conflict with another tribe or there used to be a fight, then we cut off the head of our enemies and we take it back to our village. And I thought, what a nasty thing to do. I said, but then why are you keeping these skulls here? He said, no, because once a year, we do a puja, we do a ceremony for unka atma ka shanti ke liye, no? That to make sure that their soul is peaceful, is happy. And I was laughing and I was thinking by myself, this is such an interesting thing that you cut off this guy's head, you don't give it back, you take it with you. They can't even bury the guy with his head on. But then every year you do a puja to make sure that his soul is happy. I thought, why not just give the head back? But then we saw that one of the skulls, it had some small feathers or something stuck. There was a hole inside and like a little bit of decoration. So then I asked them, I said, who is this? Why is this skull looking different? And he said, oh, that was the skull of a headman. So that was the head of the village. So because it was the head of the village, they decorated it a little bit. So he got like some special honor. But yeah, but very interesting. And some of the local, sometimes they used to invite me as a special guest or a chief guest for their local indigenous pujas or celebrations. And usually also traditionally it is a part of that they do some sacrifice, like they offer some animals. But again, we cannot just easily judge, because I met one of the local people there who is also, his father was a very famous priest, and he used to explain to me about their traditions. And he said in the ancient times, like it's like with our Puranas, no? Like in India also now, many people, they don't always understand the pujas, why we do the things we do. But if you see the deeper significance, it's very beautiful. So they had their own systems and traditions. But then, yeah, people, like, because it's a prasad, they used to serve me all kinds of things. So there's like a cultural program going on, and this girl comes, nice, pretty dress, like a host. And she used to take care of the special guests. So they had put some sofas in between while their cultural dance and their whatever fashion show, all these things are going on. So I'm sitting there with some of the local ministers and some other people. And then she comes and offers me something bound in a leaf, like a snack. So I asked her, I said, oh, kya hai? No, what is it? And then she tells me, this is like some meat, some animal, and it can be anything, even sometimes insects and things like that. So I used to very politely decline that, no, it's okay. And then they'll bring in a bamboo, it's like a bamboo, yeah, like almost like a bottle made of bamboo. They have the local rice wine, like fermented. So it's like their own local alcohol, which is also considered as a prasad, in many places. So then they used to offer me that. And then I found out that as a custom, you can take a little bit like with your finger and sprinkle it on the ground, and it is considered as that you have received it. So I didn't have to drink it. At the same time, we respect their traditions, we respect the culture. And that's how I realized that, if we keep an open mind, you can really feel at home anywhere.
So, irrespective of all these troubles, Swamiji, there was a sweet surprise for you with Gurudev's blessing. The kheer.
Yeah, there are many things. I think that kheer story, many people know. I have shared it quite a few times. But yeah, it's very symbolic, because our Swami Brahmatej, he's one of my dear teachers. So he had shared many years back once in an advanced course that so many years earlier, once they had been sitting with Gurudev in Rishikesh in the early days, and Gurudev had sent one of our teachers, told one of our teachers, I think it was a lady, to go and work, teach some courses, do some programs in some interior place somewhere in India. And apparently she was a little reluctant, and she shared with Gurudev, but I don't know, where will I stay in those places? What will I eat? And he said, you don't have to worry about anything. If you are doing my work, I'm taking care of you. And then he told her, apparently, and I remember because Swamiji had shared this with us, that no, jungle may be kheer milega. Like, don't worry, even in the jungle, you will get kheer. It's like a sweet. And what happened is that one of my trips in Arunachal Pradesh, we had to travel to Tawang, which is near the Tibet border, what used to be Tibet. And you have to go, it's a very tricky road. It takes a long drive, like one day. And you have to cross a very high peak. It's called Sela Pass or Sela Peak. And it's about 15,000 feet above sea level, more than 5,000 meters above sea level. So this is already part of Himalayas. So we crossed that very tricky road and we reached Tawang. It was a whole adventure. I will not get into the details now. We just spent one night there. We had some programs and then we had to go back because we had many more programs in another part of Arunachal Pradesh. So we left in the morning to reach that on time so that we can cross that whole peak and the hills before it gets dark, because it's even more risky. But then on that road, our car broke down suddenly, like the axis between the two front wheels broke, and the car started skidding. It almost went off the cliff. Like there were some houses there, thank God, and we were not going very fast because it's a very windy hill road. So the car started sliding, and because the steering wheel was no longer connected to the wheel, so we couldn't do anything. So it started sliding. It came to a halt. We didn't fall off that cliff. But then what happened is that we had to somehow get a mechanic and see if they have the right parts. So by the time he had come there and fixed the car, it was already 3 or 4 o'clock in the day. But then we decided we either can go back, but then we will not be able to reach our other programs in time, or we can try to quickly cross that hill, the mountain, and then in the dark we can slowly go down on the other side. I said, okay, let's try. So we went, and then it started raining, drizzling, then it started raining, and the more we went up the hill, it started, hailstones started coming, then snow started coming, and we were surprised because that time of the year it's not common at all. And then we're going up this road, it's already dark, and we're seeing this truck going in front of us on this mountain road. And that whole truck, the back wheels are like sliding like this because the road has become so slippery with the snow and the ice that it can hardly move. And finally, the truck also stopped. We crossed it because the guy knew I cannot drive any further in this weather. But our car was not in a great condition. We didn't have four-wheel drive. We didn't have snow chains. We tried going up more, and at some point we got stuck. We're stuck in the snow. Wheels are spinning. Car is not going anywhere. And on the way here, some of the teachers who were with us, we went with a few of us together, they were actually sad that we didn't see much snow on top of the hill because they were so keen to see snow. And now we got plenty. So we said, no, let's go out. You can enjoy the snow. So they played in the snow for 15, 20 minutes, and then it got so cold, they came back into the car. But then we realized we're stuck. And the driver is saying, you need to keep the engine running, because with these temperatures, if we stop now, the fuel will freeze and then we cannot go anywhere, even tomorrow. But we didn't have much food. We didn't have anything. And then we started praying. We sang a few bhajans, Ganesha bhajan. We chanted Guru Puja. We did everything we could, but no solution, And we couldn't call Gurudev or message or do anything because there's no phone network in those places. So then finally, all we could do is pray that, Gurudev, you please do something, because it's very risky, like people die sometimes in this kind of conditions. If you're snowed in, if it becomes so cold. And suddenly from the top, other side of the hill, a car came down, stopped, and it was a commander vehicle of the Border Road Organization. It was a senior officer in a special vehicle, and he was coming down, and when he saw us, he stopped and he asked, what are you doing here? It's very dangerous. You cannot spend the night like this. And then he told us, even if you keep your engine running, it will shut down because it gets so cold, and then it's very risky for you. So he said, you turn the car, you can go behind us in our tracks. You'll be able to come down. Down there is a place you can stay. There is one guest house in one of the villages. So we went down behind him. He dropped us there. Then he went ahead. We thanked him. And then we saw that guest house. When we went inside, it's not finished. It's only a board outside the building, but only half the building was finished. And there were just some cows inside. And then we remember that nearby there was a transit camp of the ITBP, the Indo-Tibetan Border Police. And one of our other contacts, another Art of Living teacher, was the DIG, the Inspector General, Deputy Inspector General of a big ITBP training camp in Arunachal Pradesh. So we found a place where we could catch the phone network. We called him and we explained to him. And very kind, at that late hour, it was already maybe 11 o'clock. He called that transit camp, those people, And normally only the army is allowed because it's army base, But he said, these are my friends, my guests, they need help. Please allow them to stay there. So we went to that camp. It took half an hour for all the procedures because they have to check, security and all that, because these are border regions and these are army camps. So finally we were allowed inside. And then, just a handful of Jawans, of soldiers who stay there because it's just a transit place. The convoy stops for some time. It's not a full army base. So a few of them are manning that post, that station. And so late at night, they welcomed us with so much of care. Then they said, this is the only thing we can offer, but we have one cabin where our commanders stay, where they can freshen up. So it's quite a nice place for those conditions. They said, you can please stay there. We have made arrangements and we are preparing some food for you because we know you haven't eaten for so many hours. And tomorrow morning, we'll heat some water for you. You can take a bath. And if the army transport goes through the hills, then we know that the road is opened, it is cleared, and you can also move. So at 12 o'clock in the night, we are sitting there, a place finally, it's warm, we have shelter. And then these guys, the army people, the soldiers, they had prepared rice and dal and some vegetables for us. So we were all so hungry, so we're having that food. And then when we were about to finish, this young soldier comes with a big smile on his face with his big bowl of kheer, of that sweet dessert. And he said, we have made kheer also for you. And that moment, I remember that so many years ago, Swami Brahmatej narrated that story where Gurudev had told one of our teachers when he sent her into this more interior places that wherever you go, if you're going to do my work, you don't have to worry. I'm taking care. And not just will you get food, you will even get kheer in the jungle. So for me, this was a full life experience that literally those words of him are truth, that even there in the middle of nowhere, really a jungle in the mountains, we got warm kheer, So, and yeah, I mean, it is experiences like this that allow you to really drop all these small worries and things, because if you're taken care of so well.
Your work was made easier by Gurudev. I heard that he was going in people's dreams to give intro talks for you. He was making them see you in their dreams.
You want to cover all the secrets, huh? Yeah, it's again, we can only wonder about this, but in so many places in the Northeast, it used to happen that, when we organize a course that, like, for example, I remember there was one happiness program, basic course in a place called Daporijo in Arunachal Pradesh, where we had made some posters, put a picture, my picture, Gurudev's picture, and then, spread it around the town. And nice turnout. One of our very dynamic teachers, Suchandanji, now he's also become brahmachari. So he's done a lot of work there. So he was organizing, he was working there. And after near the end of the course, one lady comes up to me and she has a letter and she said, "Sir, can I please give this to you? I want to share something, but I wasn't sure how to, so I wrote it down. You please open it later." And then I went home and I opened that. And then she had written that she came to the program because a few years before she had a dream, which left a very strong impression, a very nice dream. And in that dream, she had seen me. And she didn't know me. She had never met me. She didn't know anything about art of living. So when she saw the poster of the course with the picture, then she recognized my picture. And that is why she came for the course, And she said, "I don't know, but, I saw that you are the same person from my dream. And that is why I wanted to come. I wanted to find out what this is about." And this happened in different places where people used to come and tell me that, "Oh, you came in my dream and I don't know anything." It's not like I'm doing something. So I don't know what Gurudev, he was doing my promotion, how normally you say you put some nice banners, or in those places, some places there's no phone network also. But he was taken care. And even to the extent that there was one place I don't want to give too many details because, for people's privacy's sake. But one of the places in Northeast, I met a nun, a sister. She was the head of a Don Bosco college there, and Catholic nun, and she was the principal of that college. And I had gone to meet her once when I visited that place for the first time, and she really took a liking to me. She really liked me. She told me also, "You look a little bit like Jesus." But then, uh, so whenever I used to come to that place, I used to meet her, and she said, "You can give a talk in my college, meet some of the students." And she was very sincere. She had come to the ashram, our Bangalore ashram once, when we had an interfaith conference. She had also been invited, and that time she had learned Sudarshan Kriya, and she used to practice on her own, and sometimes also go for the local follow-up for the long Kriya. And she really liked it. She loved Gurudev's knowledge. She had a lot of respect for Gurudev. And then and she used to really, connect. So I remember once I came to visit her in her office. We had a chat. She had prepared some lunch in the school. And then when I was leaving, when we were out in the courtyard with all that students, um, they're also looking, because she's the principal, she's the head. And then there's me looking like Jesus a little bit because of my white dhoti and that angavastra and all that. And then suddenly she tells me, "But Swamiji, you cannot leave yet because you have not blessed me." And then I was feeling a little uncomfortable that, no, like in front of all these students, like she's the head of the institution. How can I? But she was serious. So then finally I didn't have a choice. So I closed my eyes and I blessed her there amongst all those people. And a few years later, one of our teachers from that place, she shared with me confidentially that, Swamiji, don't say that I shared this, but this lady, this nun, after she met you for the first time, she told me, because they were friends, she was also working in that college. She told me that sometimes when she used to do long kriya, she used to see a person and she thought it's Jesus, he looks like that. But when she met you the first time, she was very shocked because you are the person that she was seeing there. So that, of course, she never shared with me, but there are all these kind of experiences which I cannot explain, and but where people, like I said, like they used to see me in the dreams, and even now, still many times it happens. Sometimes I go to a place. So Gurudev does his magic, he has his way of reaching out to people. And if you go to any place like, for example, Russia and these Eastern European countries, so many people there have done the course not because they read any advertisement, but because Gurudev came in their dreams. So many, like 1 in 10 maybe, or something like that, from what I've heard. So yeah, he has his ways of getting the work done.
And then after all these efforts, Gurudev came to Northeast.
Yeah, few times I had a good fortune of organizing his visit there or being part of that. And for me, it's that was a very, very special experience because I got to really spend time with him. Like in the Bangalore ashram, he's so busy. I'm also hardly there.
Oh, hardly there. Swamiji, your video is gone. Okay, so till he comes back, I can just request all of you that these are beautiful Guru stories in making. I mean, there are so many Guru stories which we have recorded and many we will record. Swamiji, can you restart? Your video is gone. So, okay, we'll wait for Swamiji again. Now, Gurudev's Northeast visit. There are so many stories from there. True. So, all of you who would like to join this initiative and would like to translate this in different languages, can contribute by adding subtitles. You can see the setting button in the YouTube over here. So you can click on that and you can add subtitles. You can also contact the number which is scrolling, and you can WhatsApp Ashish, and Ashish can add you in a group. Many people have joined to translate it in different language, and even give a voiceovers. Few people have joined. If you have teachers who you think we should record with, if you know devotees who have amazing guru stories, even a 5 minute guru story, you can connect them to us. From 2nd of June, we are starting a special series for internationals in the morning, Indian morning times for India, so it's evening for them. So we will see people from different walks of life, different cultures, different countries coming together and sharing their guru stories. So you can write your questions. Now I think we can take few questions with Swamiji once he's back. So you can write questions, you can write how you like it. What else? So we all heard that Gurudev used to uh, listen to Yog Vasisht every day. He used to take a nap. He used to listen to Yog Vasisht. So in Hindi में हम योग वशिष्ठ का recording कर रहे हैं. That was a Hindi book. So we are going to record Yog Vasisht in Hindi, and every day from today. So for every night from tonight, let's say 11:30 Indian time, after this video, we are going to have a small one story from Yog Vasisht, so that we all can learn from it. And share your guru story. You can contact Ashish and share your guru story. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ashish. Okay, so we are waiting for Swamiji and Ashish. I'll request you to contact Swamiji. So till Swamiji is still joining, may I just tell you who all, there is Narad Bhakti Sutra happening with Gurudev. So we all know that devotion is something which only blessed soul can experience. Devotion you cannot earn. You need to be blessed with it, and it grows. It is already there just for you to experience it. Uh, it is a blessing. The emotion of devotion, the emotion of love for the master, it's a blessing. And to know more about that blessing, to know more about devotion, which is which is like 1 million times joyful than love, normal the love we have in our relationship. I think it's a blessing. So Gurudev is going to speak on Narad Bhakti Sutra, the formulas for devotion. The sutra is formulas, and Narada has given formulas for devotion, and he has decoded the devotion, and there are certain formulas to experience it to the maximum, to the fullest. So if you have not yet enrolled yourself for Narad Bhakti Sutra with Gurudev, enroll yourself. And Swamiji is here, I think. Swamiji,
Yes. So
hello.
now we are going
So we are
full
seeing in
Northeast
different
style.
lights.
Yes. So what happened is that the power, it's in the last 2 months, it has never happened that I'm here. So I think it's because we're talking about these experiences that we're getting this.
Probably.
So it has not come back. So I've connected my phone now to the network. I had a local SIM hotspot. I hope I have enough data, and using
Yes, Swamiji.
the flashlight of my other phone. So this is how we used to work in Northeast. Many times you have to somehow manage with whatever is there. So that one experience, maybe we can end with that, that I wanted to share, was that in the Northeast I had a chance to spend this time up close with Gurudev, where we used to be with him most of the day, take care of his things. And I remember, for example, once in Arunachal Pradesh, our Itanagar ashram, he came, we had some programs in the morning, then he was going to have lunch, rest for some time, and then there was an evening satsang in our ashram, because it was just after the elections, local elections. So it was not possible to organize a public program because we couldn't announce it and all that because of the regulations. So what happened is that after Gurudev has his lunch, he was resting for some time, and we got to be there with him. So, I got to press his feet, and someone was reading some yoga vashista to him, and it was very beautiful to. I mean, you can't explain, what it's like. And then I remember, because Gurudev has so many different flavors. So what happened is that after resting for some time, he got up. He said, "Okay, I should get ready for like change for the program and all that." And then he was feeling like having some fruit. So we have a beautiful kutir for Gurudev in our Itanagar ashram, made in the traditional style with special bamboo and all that. So it has a meeting room, it has a restroom for Gurudev, like his bedroom, and it has a kitchen also. So we followed him. He went to the kitchen, he opened the fridge, then he saw there was a big watermelon, and he wanted to have the watermelon. So we took it out, me and one other person was there. And then, the other person, he started cutting the watermelon and gave Gurudev one piece, and there's a small table. Gurudev sat down, and so he had a plate and that big watermelon piece, and with a spoon he was scooping out the watermelon, and in that process, some of the juice, it was going on his angavastra and all that. And I was thinking, this is not nice, he has to eat like that. So I took one piece of the watermelon, I cut it out of the skin and the shell, and then I made it small pieces and put it on a plate with a small fork, how you would serve it maybe in a nice hotel. And I kept it in front of Gurudev, and I said, "Gurudev, you can have it like this. Maybe this is easier." And then what happened is, because he had this like one arm around this big piece of watermelon, and with the other arm, he's like, taking it out with the spoon. And then he started eating. He continued eating like this. And then for a moment, I was wondering that why he's not having it with the fork. And then I realized, and I looked at him, and I said, "But I guess that way it is more fun, right?" And then he looked up at me with this naughty twinkle in his eyes. And again, with his big smile, he takes the spoon, he puts it into the watermelon, and all this juice is going all over his clothes and all that. And he's eating it, like a small child. And I think this is the beauty, that one moment he's meeting with chief minister, and he's taken full responsibility to do whatever is required to, help the world, help the people. And at the same time, there is so much of innocence, so much of purity, so much of joy, and at this, and it's like, it's not contradicting, it's like complementing, it's all in one. And it showed me that sometimes it's okay to be naughty, it's okay to just enjoy. And maybe one more thing I can share to end this session is that like in the first part last time, I shared that how it was so special for me that after so many years, after the first time I met him, and I had this intense longing to be like that, where I can be a disciple of his, that he fulfilled that wish. And I was with him in the Netherlands when he came for the Yoga Day programs, and I was there with him to prepare, the hall for his arrival, and be with him as his disciple. So one of the days that during that program in the Netherlands a few years ago, he was staying we had made arrangement in a house with one of our teachers there, and we had made sure that he has sufficient privacy, so that it's not all the time people around. He has his own floor in the house with a room he can rest. So in between all the public programs, he had some time for himself as well. And then one afternoon, suddenly he said, "Let's go for a walk." So we quickly informed the volunteers who were there in the house downstairs, and some people were waiting outside the gate to meet him, so that everybody could get ready. And then Gurudev comes out and he walks out, and the house is located in a very nice place. It's in the town where I've lived for many years. And this neighborhood was like next to a big park. There's like a forest kind of place, like a park where people can walk, and there's a canal nearby. So he walked out of the garden, out of the house, and then many people, of course, there were maybe 30, 40 people were there, and I was walking next to him, and suddenly it struck me that after all these years, now I'm here with Gurudev in the Netherlands, and that too in my own city. And I knew this park very well because it's close to the place where I went to my high school. So we used to go there, to hang out with some of my friends and all those things. And I was thinking these are the places where I grew up, where I spent so much of my childhood, my teenage years. And now I'm walking there with my master. So suddenly it's like these two worlds started becoming one. Like there was this one part which was my life in Holland, Netherlands, which was before. And then there was this life in India and all those years of travel with my master. And suddenly they had become the same. And we are walking there, and suddenly Gurudev looks at me. And just when these thoughts are going through my mind, that it's so special and so precious to share this with him. And then Gurudev looks at me and he says, no, and I told him that, Gurudev, we can go straight from here. There's a nice fountain there. And then he looks at me and with a smile, he says that, do you know this place? And I said, yes, Gurudev, I grew up here. Like I spent some of my childhood here and I went to high school nearby. So I know this place very well. And then he gave me this big smile and then he said, oh, then you can guide us. So then I'm that whole caravan of people and Gurudev. I'm saying that, okay, no, we can take a right here, we can go straight. And I'm showing him there's a beautiful canal and there's this and that. So it's like I got to show almost like, even though I didn't live in that place, it's like almost as if I can show Gurudev my neighborhood, And that night, the program had finished. We had the Vigyan Bhairav unveiling infinity. And then we were there in his room with few people. And then he told everybody, tonight I will rest early. So you all go. So he sent everybody out of the room. And then suddenly he told me, no, but you stay. Purna Chaitanya, you can stay. So everybody else went, closed the door. And then, he said, okay, you can press my legs a little, my feet. And he knew that, of course, that I longed to do some service. So then he was attending to some of his messages and calls and all that. And then finally, he said, okay, no, now we'll go and rest. So I quickly went into his restroom, make sure everything is taken care, the bed is ready. And he came and then he sat down to meditate. And then he said, you sit. So I sat, I closed my eyes, and then he was playing some chanting, and we were sitting there on his iPad and sitting and meditating. And I don't know how much time passed, but there was so much of gratitude because for a moment, normally there are so many people, but it was just me and him, and that too in the Netherlands, who could have imagined? So I was sitting there with my master in his presence when he is meditating, and then I was meditating. And then at some point, suddenly, I noticed that he like some movement was there. So I opened my eyes, and then he said, okay, now you also go and rest. So I quietly went out, I switched off that light. And then when I came out, I realized it was past midnight, it was 12:30, 1 o'clock. So for me, it's like, okay, maybe we don't get to spend so much physical time with him, but at the same time, you feel that presence wherever you go. I feel so connected to him. Being here in South Africa, I don't really feel that he's very far away. But at the same time, it's his compassion that once in a while, whenever maybe it's needed or whenever it's appropriate, he is given these experiences which are so precious. And yeah, it's difficult to explain. I don't know how to convey that, but despite him being so busy, and I know there are so many people who can share this, that he meets thousands of people every day, and yet you can meet hundreds of thousands of people who will all share that they had this moment with him, where even in a crowd he will know who and also when to pick you out or to give you that moment where you can talk to him, or and I don't know how he does it, but he does it, you know. And maybe we can end with one
Swamiji,
thing which someone once asked him. They asked Gurudev, it was in one of the satsangs, that do you love all of us equally? Like, you have so many people, and we see it's very different. You know, some people get to spend a lot of time with him. You know, you may have spent more time with him than me, for example. But he's like, so you wonder, no? Sometimes people, they ask me also, but oh, Swamiji, you have spent so much of time with Gurudev, you're always with him. And I'm thinking, where? You know, I was in Northeast for 7 years. Now I'm in Africa. You know, where at least you can go to the ashram whenever you want to go. You know, everybody there, if they want, of course, now it's locked down, but otherwise, if you want, you can get on a bus or a flight and you can sit there and he won't say anything. But if I show up uninvited, he will ask me, what are you doing here? There's a lot of work in Northeast or Africa or somewhere else. But then someone asked him once that, Gurudev, do you love everybody equally? And of course, you expect him to say yes. But he said no. And I remember that person asked, Gurudev, do you love all of us equally? And he said no. And the whole Vishalakshi Mantha, there were a few thousand people there, pin drop silence. You know? Everybody shocked. And then he smiled, and with so much of love, he told that person, he looked at that person, and he said, how can I love all of you equally? Because everybody is different. You know? You're all so unique. He said, I don't love all of you equally. I love all of you uniquely. And I think that is the beauty of having a master, and that's the beauty of what you're doing with these Guru story sessions, because Guru has so many faces, you know, so many flavors, so many, and we all have a different relationship with him. On one level is the same, but at the same time, he is for us what we need him to be. You know, he knows exactly what to give when. And sometimes you may feel that, oh, you don't like it, but then later you realize that he was teaching us so much, or it was his compassion or his kindness. So it is really something to be experienced. And I think it's a wonderful way that through these stories, people are getting a glimpse of all these different flavors, you know, these different, like, you see the pictures of, you know, the gods with all the 1,000 hands or the 1,000 heads. You know, it's like that. He's doing one thing here, one thing there. Yet it's the same person, the same, not person also you can say, but same master. Yeah.
Swamiji, 4 questions to conclude. Four
I have only a
questions.
few minutes because I have to start an advanced course also.
So you can,
But I don't know how I will do it in the dark. Actually, let's see.
Anyway, everybody's eyes will be closed, so
no orientation now. I need
you
to
can just
go online. Let's see.
orientate.
Yes.
So Swamiji, first question. It is some focus on internationals. Many of us would like to focus on spiritual life, but it is difficult to move away from what we are engaged in. What is your guidance for all of us?
Spiritual life, spirituality is not separate from your life. You know, this is sometimes, I think, a misconception we have, where we think it is a different thing. Sometimes you live your life and sometimes you do spirituality. Spirituality, real spirituality, is a part of everything you do. It is the way you eat your food. It is the way you treat the people around you. It is the way you look at your life, look at yourself. And you don't need to leave everything and go to a jungle to progress on the spiritual path. You know, that is the beauty. So you have that intention, that sincerity, and you focus on your sadhana, your seva, your satsang, and then whatever has to come to you will come to you. You know, and master takes care. There are so many examples. You listen to some of the guru stories on this channel. You know, not everybody has to be a swami, not everybody has to be a full-time teacher, not everybody has to be a teacher even. You know, so it is about bringing that element of truth, of love, of service in your day-to-day activities, and that longing for the divine. And then everything you do becomes spiritual, and everything you do becomes a sadhana and a seva and a satsang.
So all of us would like to stay in touch with Swamiji. There is a link scrolling. There are details scrolling about his social media pages on different apps, so you can follow him. And Swamiji's second question: so many teachers and volunteers who are watching this and who will watch it even after so many years, what is your uh, what is what lesson you would like to share with all of us from your own experience?
I think many lessons have been shared through these experiences, but for me, it has been that I can say that when the moment you start being able to see every experience that comes your way as a prasad, as a blessing, as a gift from the master, then there is no place in life for misery, no place left, you know. Because even if someone is shouting at you, if you take it as a prasad, then you cannot but smile, you know, you cannot but wonder. And that is why I think you like can send me anywhere, but yeah, if it feels like a blessing, then how will you ever be miserable? And I think that is the one of the greatest gifts of having a master, where you feel so loved. You see that unconditional love and you feel that, and you see how he acts through all the circumstances and people. And really, like he says, only what is required or what is best for you will come to you. So when that starts becoming an experience, not just a concept, then any experience becomes, you can take it as a blessing, and then life becomes a celebration.
What is Gurudev for you?
Everything. Can't add anything to that. No, it's full. There is no place for anything else.
And if Gurudev is in front of you right now, how would you like to express this love and gratefulness towards him?
I don't have to express, he knows it. All of this is an expression of that, but I cannot express that. No, that he knows, and he knew it even before me. So if nothing else, this has just been a journey for me to realize that, like I shared in the last story, that experience that I had when I looked him in the eyes for the first time, and after that, that recognition, the realization that this is not the first time we have met. I have been with him for so many lifetimes, and he has been with me in so many forms, and that he is not just a person, but that's, I mean, that Guru Tattva, you know. And when you, again, not as a concept, as an experience, when you feel that, then that's it. No, there's nothing else left. There's no, what can you say? You know, what, can't express that, but then it's done. I mean, if you feel that really it is there in every cell of your being, and it's nothing but him, then there is no you left, then all of these questions, like, it becomes, yeah, it's superficial, you know. It's like, of course he is me, so why he, of course he knows. Just sometimes we forget, but yeah, he knows. So yeah, this is something that is difficult to answer. Yeah.
Swamiji, Gurudev is going to conduct Narad Bhakti Sutra from
Yeah,
1st June to 15th June, and both in English and in Hindi, both batches are there.
I've already
So
registered. I'm also
you
watching
have
from
already
here.
registered.
Yeah. No, Bhakti
Would you like
Sutras
to?
is, Bhakti Sutras is like, it's so relevant, no, for Guru stories. Anybody who loves Guru stories is a devotee. And Guru stories is one of the types of devotion that Narada speaks about, Devarishi Narada. He says there are so many forms of bhakti, of devotion, and one of them is Guru stories. So this is one of the expressions or the manifestations of devotion. So, and there is one sutra in the Bhakti Sutras that when I, for the first time, heard his commentary so many years ago, it really stuck with me, and it has been with me all these years, and it comes up whenever I meet him. It says, Tatrapi na mahatmya jnana vismriti apavada, where Devarishi Narada talks about the gopis and what made their devotion so unique and so superior is that he said that despite them being with him all this time and seeing, you can say, his most human aspect, because they saw Krishna as a child doing all the pranks, taking a bath, brushing his teeth, eating the food, playing games. So they saw him in his most human aspect, you can say, but it says tatrapi na mahatmya jnana vismriti apavada. Never did they make the mistake of forgetting his true nature. It said that despite all that, they never forgot who he truly was, that he is not just a person. And when I read this, it really resonated with me. And I made a promise to myself that I need to remember this whenever I am with Gurudev, not to forget who he really is. And I know Gurudev loves to play. He doesn't like people who are too serious or too sattvic. So sometimes I feel maybe I'm too serious. I have too much of reverence or respect, But because I've seen sometimes people spend a lot of time with him for whatever reason, work and somewhere mind gets used to it. No, you start taking it for granted. Like a new person, you tell them Gurudev can meet you right now, they will leave everything and run. But someone who meets him every other day, say, okay, let me just finish my lunch and go. Because, Gurudev will be there, I can still meet him. It's not bad, but the thing is, if you observe inside, something changes, You're sitting in the satsang. I saw once there was a satsang and Gurudev is talking, and there's this group from Mongolia who doesn't understand a word of English or Hindi. And the translator was having difficulty with the equipment, so it wasn't working that night. And that means they didn't have translation. So there were these 100 people maybe from Mongolia, and they were sitting there in the satsang, and every single one of them was only looking at Gurudev. Not for a moment they're looking here and there. So much of devotion, and they don't understand a single word he's saying. And then I was seeing some of the people, maybe the local visitors or some ashramites or people who are sitting in between, chatting a little bit or checking the phone or doing something. And not to point any fingers or say that this is right or wrong, but it shows the kind of devotion they have for him, that even if they don't understand the word he's saying, their whole focus is on him. And I felt that, yeah, this is something that, because mind is very tricky, that I need to remind myself that whenever I'm in his presence, that, he is not just this person. So I used to tell myself, don't forget, don't think for a moment that he is just, and because we start thinking like that, oh, he's a person. So then he has a mind like us. He doesn't have a mind like us. That's when you say, oh, I think Gurudev is angry with me. Why? He didn't look at me. Now, why do you think that? Because when you are angry with someone, you don't look at them. So then you start putting your own mind on Guru, where you say, oh, Guru is like that because he doesn't look at me, or he didn't smile, or he didn't respond the way I was hoping. And then you start analyzing and you think so many things that he thinks like that or he feels like that. We really don't know, And so for me, that was something where I would remind myself that, I am in the presence of, well, what I have experienced, And I think to end with this is beautiful, that because when sometimes people come, there's darshan line, or Gurudev comes and goes from a venue, or you see many people, they're trying to get a glimpse of Gurudev, right? They want to get darshan, and people will shout Guruji, Guruji, and they wave and do all these things, and then if you observe, there will be few people, and this is rare, this is not the majority, but there will be few people who will just be standing there and they'll just be looking at Gurudev. And they're really appreciating his presence, So they're really having his darshan, you can say. While most people are not, their focus is not so much on getting his darshan, but on giving him darshan, They want Gurudev to see them. So the whole focus is, I want Gurudev to see me. I want to take a picture with Gurudev. They're not actually looking at him. They want him to see them, And again, it's not a bad thing. This is a phase I think everybody goes through. But for me, this has always been a thing that, okay, am I here to give darshan or to have his darshan? Am I here to have him acknowledge me, or am I here to just be with him and see what he has to give? And I think this is that, something that I learned from later, many years later, that I really resonated with. One of our senior teachers, Krishanji from Canada, once he was sharing very beautifully. He said, and this was it was an advanced program. It was a yoga teacher training. And he was sharing, he said, no, if your love for the Guru, if you can make your love for the Guru really unconditional, then it means that you give him full freedom to be however he wants to be. Because we have so many concepts. We think, oh, Guru should be like this. He should do like this. He should say hi to me. He should recognize me, or he should behave in a certain way. He should smile. He should be nice all the time. He should, whatever, Some people feel he should be meditating so many hours a day. Some people feel he should dress in a certain time. So many concepts. But he said, if you can really make your love for the master unconditional, that means you give him total freedom to be whatever he wants to be, to do whatever he wants to do, which means even if from tomorrow he will never even look at you again, can it still be okay for you? Can you still say, but I will love him anyway? He may never look at me again. He may never talk to me again. But then can you still love him? So this is something, this is very high level of devotion. But if you want to, I mean, I don't know if we can classify it like that, but this is what it's about, no? Like, how we don't realize how many concepts we have of the master, and we put him in a box, and if it matches, then we are happy. If it doesn't, we are not. But we don't realize that we are limiting him, and the more, I think, that is my experience, the more we can be really open and give him that freedom, the more we get a glimpse of who he really is.
Amazing, Swamiji. One last curiosity: were you holding your phone in your hand all the time when the light was off? For the
So
flashlight?
I think,
Hello? Hello, Swamiji, you're there? Okay, I think the video is again gone. Swamiji, can you hear me? Okay, I think. So, true stories, amazing, inspiring, insightful stories. So, many people are asking for part 3. Mention in the comments what is your learning out of it and how did you like it. And what I observed, Swamiji was actually holding his phone in his hand when the lights were off, and that shows his commitment towards. Yeah, Swamiji, holding your phone in your hand when the lights were off.
yeah, so we had quite an adventurous, it was like a Northeast experience, no? This is how we used to work there.
Yeah, so I was just thinking that it shows your commitment, Swamiji, towards sharing the knowledge. Keeping your phone in your hand for such a long time. Only when the lights were on again, I could see the shadow. So it really shows the commitment and all the trouble you went through to make this experience for all of us so beautiful. Thank you, Swamiji,
So
for
it was my
sharing.
pleasure. I know we still couldn't cover everything, but I was happy to be able to share this with all of you.
So probably
Thank you so
soon they can
much,
enroll.
Digvijay.
For those who want to hear more from Swamiji, can definitely visit his YouTube channel and his Facebook page. Like his Facebook page, and he keeps on uploading many chantings, many Guru stories. Also, there is a special playlist for his
Yeah,
experiences with Gurudev. So you can stay in touch with him. You can email him. You can message him on Facebook page, and uh, you can plan a
Instagram,
session with
Twitter,
him.
everywhere.
Yeah, he's so he's very active on social media. Over
I
100,000
have to
followers
take
on
your leave.
Facebook. So
My
follow.
participants are
Yes. Thank
waiting,
you,
but thank you so
Swamiji.
much,
Thank
Digvijay.
you.
Yes,
Thank you,
take care.
Swamiji. Jai Gurudev. So tomorrow we have Darshak Hathiji with us. If you have not seen his session yet, and it's amazing session. So tomorrow we have part 2 with him. So his talks of decoding the master were very famous, and he speaks about how Guru, when we say no, we forget everything when we meet Gurudev, or so many different experiences we share. So has he kind of decoded it in the part 1, and in part 2 we are going to hear more from him. All of you who would like to contribute for making this knowledge reach more and more people, forward with these videos, subscribe, increase subscribers. That is one. Second, you can uh, refer some of the teachers and devotees from your country, your state, so that we can record Guru Story with them as per your time zone. So we have a team now. Many people have joined. And third, you can contribute by clicking on the setting, subtitles, add subtitles, and you can actually add subtitles if you can translate in the language where people from your country can understand, people from your state can understand. You can actually contribute that way also. Thank you, everybody. Jai Gurudev. See you tomorrow. Namaskar.